Previous lecturer we have dealt with Payment of Gratuity Act of 1972. Now this is last but one lecturer on Social Security in India. Today we will be discussing the Workers or Workmen's Compensation Act of 1923. Workmen's Compensation Act of 1923. That means if at all an employee is working in an organization and he has got any of the injuries, or he has been died, or he has got permanent or temporary disablement, then the employer will pay compensation for him so that he can live his life until he survives, right? This is the benefits that are provided under the Workers Compensation Act of 1923. Now we will go on to see the details of the act. The Workmen's Compensation Act aims to provide workmen and or their dependents some relief in case of accidents arising out and in the course of employment and causing either death or disablement for workmen. That means if at all an employee is working in an organization and he has got any of the disablement, or if at all he has died, then his dependents are covered for the sum assured from the employer under this act. It provided for the payment by certain classes of employers to their workmen compensation for injury by accident. Before 2010, Employees Compensation Act 1923 was known as Workmen's Compensation Act of 1923. This is very important. That means the name has been changed in 2010. Initially it was Workmen's Compensation Act. Now it has been changed as Employees Compensation Act of 1923. Next, where all does this act does not apply. That means if at all in an organization the ESI Act is applicable. Where ESI Act is applicable, where there are more than 10 persons employed, there the ESI Act is applicable. A workman is entitled to get the compensation from Employee State Insurance Act Corporation. A workman covered under ESI Act is not entitled to get the compensation under Workmen's Compensation Act as per section 53 of ESI Act of 1948. That means if at all employee in an organization is getting the benefit of ESI Act, in such organization the Workmen's Compensation Act is not applicable, because the employee is already covered under the ESI Act and he will get benefit from this act if at all there is any type of injury, or if at all there is death of that person. Now, employees entitled to compensation. Who are the employees who are entitled to compensation under this act? Every employee, including those employed through a contractor but excluding casual employees. This is important. Even the contract employees is also beneficiary of this act, but excluding casual employees. Okay, casual employees are excluded. Who is engaged for the purpose of employer's business and who suffers an injury in an accident arising out and if in the course of his employment. That means while he is working in an organization and during that period, if at all in the working hours itself he got any type of injury, then he is beneficiary of this act. That is, he shall be entitled for the compensation under the act. Employees liability for compensation, that is accidents, who are all beneficiaries or who are all get the benefits from this act. The employer of any establishment covered under this act is required to compensate an employee who has suffered an accident arising out and in the course of his employment, resulting into, if at all he is dead, then also his beneficiaries, that is his dependents, will get the benefit from this act. That is, they will get compensation, that they will get compensation from the employer to the beneficiaries. Then if at all he has got permanent total disablement, that means he is unable to work due to his disablement that has been arised in the working hours till his lifelong, then he is also covered under this act. If at all he has got permanent partial disablement, that means only one leg has been cut out or only one hand has been lost, then he is called as permanent but partial disablement, right? He is also beneficiary of this act. Then fourth one, the temporary disablement, whether total or partial, or who has contracted an occupational disease. Now we will see further what exactly this deals with. Employees shall not be liable. That means employer shall not be liable if at all the employee has done some of the mistakes that are mentioned in this act, then the employer is not liable to pay the compensation to this employee. Now we will see the condition when the employer, that is the boss, is not liable to pay the compensation. In respect of any injury which does not result in the total or partial disablement of the workman for a period exceeding 3 days. Right. That means if at all a person has got some kind of minor fracture which can be recovered within 2 or 3 days, right? If at all it has been recovered within 2 days, then it is not called as total or partial disablement, and in this time the compensation is not applicable for this employee. That means in order to get the compensation, the total or partial disablement should exceed more than 3 days, right? If at all it is less than 3 days, or it is only just 2 days bed rest, then also the employee is not eligible for the compensation. Then second, when the employer will not be paying compensation. Second, in respect of any injury not resulting in death caused by an accident which is directly attributed to, right? That means if at all the employee has done some of the misbehaves that has been mentioned below, we will discuss now, and it is not resulting in death, then the employer is not liable to pay the compensation. What are those? The first one is the workman having been at the time thereof under the influence of drink or drugs. That means if at all he has drunk and he is working in organization, then the employer is not liable for the compensation of that employee. Next, second, the willful disobedience of the workman to an order expressly given or to a rule expressly framed for the purpose of securing the safety of the workman. We can take the example, if it in an organization the employer directly says, or he will instruct the employees that please don't go to that section because there is high voltage current. By knowing this also, if an employee enters that section and he got any of the current shocks, right, and he is dead, then in this term the employer is not liable to pay the compensation to the employee, because it was initially instruction to the employee that there is a risk. Even knowing that the employer has disobeyed that task and he has gone there, therefore he is not liable or he is not eligible for the compensation under this act. Next, the willful removal or disagreed by the workman of any safeguard or other device which he knew to have been provided for the purpose of securing the safety for workmen. That means just imagine in a steel industry they will provide boots as well as helmet so that it should be protection for the employees. Even after providing the protections, if at all the employee will not wear helmet, and due to the fall of any of the heavy steel metal on him, there is an occurrence of death of the employee, right? In this time the employer is not liable to pay the compensation, right? This is simple meaning. Next, the burden of proving international disobedience on the part of the employee shall lie upon the employer, right? The burden of proving intentional disobedience on the part of the employee shall lie upon the employer. That means even after giving instructions, the employee has disobeyed that instruction. It should be proven by the employer so that he will not be liable to pay the compensation. Next, when the employee has contracted a disease which is not directly attributed to a specific injury caused by the accident or the occupation. That means if at all anything happens for an employee during the lunch hour, then it is the responsibility of the employer. But during the lunch hour, the employee goes out to pick the child from the school or hostel, then it is not the responsibility of the employee. It is not the responsibility of the employer to pay the compensation for the employee, because the employee is working for his own self, right? There is an intention of his own benefit and not the benefit of the employer. Next, when the employee has filed a suit for damages against the employer or any other person in a civil court. See, there are other conditions. Contracting out. Any contract or agreement which makes the workman give up or reduce his right to compensation from the employer is null or void. That means if there is any agreement or contract between the employer and employee which states that the employer is not liable to pay the compensation in that time that agreement is termed as not valid. That is, it is null as well as it is void. It is not applicable in the court of law. That means in that term also, in that situation, the employer should pay the compensation for the employee. Next, what is definition of disablement? We have dealt with, there are types of disablement. There is partial disablement and temporary disablement, as well as full disablement, right? That is permanent disablement. Disablement is the loss of earning capacity resulting from injury caused to a workman by an accident. Disablement can be classified as total disablement and partial disablement. That is, this total disablement means he is unable to work in any of the organization for any of the work for his whole lifelong. What is partial disablement? That means his capacity to earn has reduced, but it has not lost. It can further be classified into permanent disablement and temporary disablement, where permanent or temporary is said to be total when it anticipates a worker for all work he has capable of doing at the time of accident, resulting in such disablement. That means before accident, what all he would use to work, now he has lost the capacity due to this accident, and it has resulted him into disablement. Now we will see total disablement. It is considered to be permanent if a workman, as a result of accident, suffers from the injury specified in Part 1, Schedule 1, or suffers from such combination of injuries specified in Part 2, Schedule 1, as would be the loss of earning capacity when total to 100% or more. That means before this accident, what the employee used to work, now due to this accident, that is after this accident, he is not at all able to work. This is nothing but total disablement. That means he has lost 100% earning capacity, right? You can read this, what are mentioned in part 1 as well as schedule 1 in the handouts. The handouts will be provided on the Telegram channel. You can join the Telegram. The link will be provided in description. Next, that means in this time, in this total disablement, he has lost 100%. Okay, he has lost 100%. What 100%? The earning capacity. Now we'll see temporary disablement. Reduces the earning capacity. It will not lose the earning capacity, but it will reduce the earning capacity, right, of a workman in the employment in which he was engaged at the time of accident. Now, tests for determining whether an accident arose out of employment. That means in order to identify whether the disablement has occurred due to the employment or due to the work that he is doing in organization, there are some of the steps we need to remember. That first one is, at the time of injury, workman must have been engaged in the business of the employer and must not be doing something for his personal benefit, right? As we discussed earlier, an example, if at all an employee is having a lunch in his lunch time, then it is the responsibility of the employer to give the compensation if anything happened for that employee at that time. But if the employee will go out of the office during the lunch time for his personal work, and if at all he dies due to accident outside, then it is not the responsibility of the employer to compensate him. This is simple meaning. Next, second, that accident occurred at the place where he is performing his duties. Third, injury must have resulted from some risk incidental to the duties of the service or inherent in the nature condition of employment. There are some of the occupational diseases which are also eligible for the compensation under this act. An occupational disease is any chronic ailment that occurs as a result of work or occupational activity. It is an aspect of occupational safety and health. An occupational disease is typically identified when it is shown that it is more prevalent in a given body of workers than in the general population or in other workers' population. That means, see, if at all in steel industry, the persons working have got more cancers, or there are more number of cancer patients in the industries that are working in steel, then it is called occupational, because the public who is not working in that steel industry has not occupied with the cancer. That means it is an occupational disease for that employee. If any injury or disease is caused, which is specified in Part A, B, and C of Schedule 3, it shall be deemed to have been an occupational disease or injury arising out and in the course of employment, enabling the employee to claim compensation. You can read what exactly are mentioned in Part A, Part B, and Part 3. That means there are some time periods you should remember. You can read these definitions from the handouts that will be provided for you. As it will be very lengthy video if at all we keep on explaining this, right? It will be very easy for you. You can read it just one time and it will be easy for you to understand. List of even we have mentioned list of occupational diseases. What are there? There is a huge number of list. You can just remember it. Now there is amount of compensation is also mentioned. The amount of compensation payable will be as follows, namely where death results an amount equal to 50% of the monthly wages of the deceased workman multiplied by the relevant factor or an amount of 50,000 rupees, whichever is more, right? What is relevant factor? That means for the particular age they will provide a particular factor that should be multiplied with the monthly wage, 50% of the monthly wage of the employee. That means the last drawn monthly salary divided by 2 into relevant factor, right? It will provide the amount of compensation. It should not be more than 50,000. If it is more than 50,000, then the maximum amount is 50,000 should be provided. Where permanent total, that means where permanent total disablement is happened, it should be 60% of last wage drawn into relevant factor. Okay, it will give the compensation amount that should be provided. In the handouts we have provided list of injuries deemed to result in permanent total disablement. Okay, as we discussed, total is nothing but 100% loss of income. Okay, and partial is some percent but not total, right? You can read all those from the handouts. It is not at all necessary for you to remember, but just for your assurance you can read it. Now how this is calculated, that is calculation of compensation. Compensation in case of death of employee. As we have discussed, 50% of monthly wages of the deceased employee into relevant factor with corresponding age of the injured workman specified in Schedule 4 or 1,20,000 rupees of compensation, whichever is more. That means you can take an example. If an employee is working and he has died and his last drawn salary was 10,000, right? Now we should divide it by 2, that is 5,000 last drawn salary multiplied by relevant factor. His age was 27, that means the relevant factor is 200, right? 5,000 into 2,000 into 200. Now this calculated amount is nothing but compensation that should be provided to an employee by the employer. Do remember, the compensation should not be directly settled by the employer and employee, but it should go in the hands of commissioner. Then it should go to the employee. We can see distribution of compensation. Compensation must be paid to the dependents only. Who are dependents? You can read the dependents, that is, it may be widow of him or it may be a child, right? Compensation must be paid to the dependents only. No other person except dependents are right to claim of compensation. Compensation should not be paid directly to the workman by his employer in case of injury or death. That means if at all the compensation is paid directly, it is not stated as valid, but it should go in the hands of commissioner then to the workman. Employer should deposit the workman compensation with the commissioner. The deposited compensation to workman shall be paid through the commissioner to the workman. If no dependent is there for deceased, that is dead workman, there is no necessity to pay compensation by the employer. That means if at all a person has been employed and he has died, but he has no children or widow, then he will not be eligible for the compensation. Or if at all there is no any legal heir, then the compensation will be cancelled. If two or more dependents exist, this is very important point. Do remember, if two or more dependent exists, For a deceased workman, the compensation amount shall be distributed by the commissioner according to his wish. That means, what is the wish of commissioner? He will distribute the amount of compensation to each of them. If the workman dependent is of legal disability, that is a minor or mental capacity, or neglect of children, the compensation amount shall be invested for their according to the directions of the commissioner. That means the commissioner will direct how the amount should be deposited and what is the ratio or proportion of the amount that should be deposited. Reports of fatal accidents and serious bodily injuries. That means, see, recently in Hyderabad there was a gas leak, right? And many of the employees died. Right? In that situation, the employer, that is the organization, should provide the concerned authority a report, that is a fatal report, within 7 days. This time is very important, within 7 days, to the concerned authority or to the government. In order to monitor this act, appointment of commissioner is done, and this appointment is done by the central government, and he is a officially gazetted person, right? See, the state government may by notification in the official gazette appoint any person who is or has been a member of state judicial service for a period not less than 5 years. This condition is very important. Do remember this or by heart this. Or is or has been for not less than 5 years an advocate or a pleader, or has been a gazetted officer for not less than 5 years, having educational qualification and experience in personal management, human resource development and industrial relations. You can read other conditions that should be required for the appointment of the commissioners in the handouts. These handouts will be provided on the Telegram channel and the link is provided in the description. See, there are, as of now, it is much more sufficient for you if at all you prepare only on videos. If you want to go depth inside, you can read the handouts. But I think it is more than sufficient for you to crack the exam. Okay. If at all you are new to the channel, please do subscribe and press the bell icon. Do share the video with your friends. It will be helpful for them. Thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned.